Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday, January 30th, wherever you may be. Welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream. My name is Alan Collins, founder of Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, I think largest, pretty much only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. So we're glad that you found us. We have a very special guest here today. We're doing this live stream a bit early because Heather Taylor is joining us from, I always think Paris, but it's actually a little north of Paris, isn't it? She's from France. Well, she's from France by way of, I think, Portland. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm from Portland, Oregon, but I've been living in France for about 3 years now.
So a lot of people don't realize we have quite a large contingent of expatriates in our little group here, Student Loan Justice, beckoning from nearly every country, I think, at this point in the world. And so we're thrilled to have Heather with us. And I should also say, Heather is a great example of normal people, just like me, just like you, who decided to take the bull by the horns and fight this fight. I mean, I am just amazed and impressed at what she's been able to do from a foreign country, no less. Like, she started our AV club, and I don't know if you've been with our group for any length of time, you'll see that we hit the governors of various states where the student loan debt exceeds the entire state budget. And we've got an encyclopedia of these state graphics that just completely speak to those issues. Graphics, we have GIFs, we have memes. We have an entire audio-visual club with Student Loan Justice, and you can find it, I think, on our Facebook group, or just ask us so we can tell you what the link is. Heather started all that stuff I should probably give her husband some credit as well, but so Heather, just tell us a little more about yourself and what you're up to. And
Yeah, so I started volunteering with Student Loan Justice about a year ago. And one of the first things that I did was we were hitting governors and calling governors' offices. And right after that, I started to learn about the Scared to documentary series. And I came on the live stream and met Mike. And since then, I've just been trying to figure out how we can fight for student loan justice from abroad, because as much as I would like to go out and protest with everyone, I can't. I'd be the only person out there with a sign in my small little town in France, right? So that meant that I needed to learn how to digitally organize, and I've been having a lot of fun being involved with the film, and we have some huge events coming up for the film series. Alan is going to be joining me on a panel tomorrow, as well as Tom Borgers, Reggie Harris, and Mike Camoin, who is the director and producer of our film. And we'll also have Representative, his name is I'm going to mess it up. It's Owelewa, and he's from Washington, D.C., and he'll be actually joining us on the panel. We had our screening at USC where we had Representative Jamal Bowman come and give opening remarks, but this time the representative from DC is going to chat with us, and we're going to talk with the audience. And it's just really exciting to see how this has all come together, and I'm excited to see a lot of you there tomorrow and answer some questions for you. Alan, do you want to pull up our Giphy page? Speaking of AV,
if I can do that, I will. Let me back up for a minute here and just let everybody know, we've been working on a documentary for the past nearly 5 years now. It's a very strong film. If you go to Scared to Debt, T-O-Debt, Scared, T-O, Debt, movie.com or scared to debt series.com, you can see where we're at. It's at this point in time, it looks like it's gone from a feature-length documentary to a film series, and we've got the first 2 series completed now, and we've screened both of them at many places, film festivals, universities like USC twice now, And I guess the point of this thing we're doing here today is to tell you what Heather just told you. If you look down, you can see the link for our panel discussion tomorrow. You need to sign up for it. This is with Democrats Abroad, as Heather said, but it will be a very strong discussion. So I would just urge all of you to register for that discussion and check out the website for the film too, and do whatever you can help. Do whatever you can do to help. You know, making a film can be a very difficult business, and you know, the more the merrier. The more people out there want to pitch in and help in whatever way makes sense to them is great. You know, indie films are always a challenge, and so any help that we can get, if you have any unique skills, talents, or otherwise that you might lend to this project, would be really helpful. So Heather, how's Paris today? How's France today?
Yeah, Paris, I only go to Paris when I'm going to the airport. We're out in the middle of the country. It's cold. It's been cold for
Okay.
a month.
Well,
But I am enjoying my time in France. I'm planning to be here possibly indefinitely because my husband's lifelong dream was to grow up and move to France. So when I met him, it was kind of part of the package. I knew that meant that I was going to learn French and move to France when we were getting married. So, because I wasn't going to take France from him, right? But I'm excited for the pandemic to end someday so I can explore more of it. I got here just right before COVID, really. So I haven't explored as much of it as I would like to. But what I appreciate about France is that it's known as the country of the rights of man. And Jefferson said, I think, it was Thomas Jefferson said that every man has two countries, his own and France. And I think the reason for that is he saw that people had the right to education, they had the right to healthcare, their UN granted human rights were being respected here. And for me, as an educator from America, all my friends and family are back home. And part of why I volunteer with Student Loan Justice is because I think that we can do better and that the US could be the type of country where people talk about how outstanding human rights are, right? We don't have to sit here fighting for them endlessly forever without any results, right?
So tell us a little bit about what the college industry looks like in France. It's not an industry, I know.
Yeah.
What's the major differences you see between higher education in say France or other countries in Europe and the United States?
Well, one thing so in teaching at the university here, teaching English to French students, I noticed how different the outlooks on life of college students were. And I've met so many people that are deciding to become teachers, even though abroad teachers are not making as much money as they might in other professions. But they're deciding to become teachers because they're passionate about it. But they don't have to worry about being in debt for life. And they're not worried about if they'll have enough money to raise a family if they become a teacher, because they will. And it's just so basic to them that they are confused when I question, like, can you afford to become a teacher? I don't ask students that, but friends of mine who have talked about going into teaching, I ask them to think about, like, can you really afford that? And I'm shocked at how just normal it is for people here to respect educators, to respect healthcare workers, to respect the right to have both of those, and how interconnected I've noticed that those two issues are. in the United States, your doctor is being extorted for student loan money. So he's got to work for a private insurance company. In France, doctors are not going into debt, and they're not being told they have to pay off $500,000 so that they can be your doctor, right? And healthcare costs are much lower. And last I checked, France was ranked #1 for healthcare in the world. And I don't think that the fact that you can go to school to become a doctor or a nurse or a nursing assistant or a med aide, the fact that you can go to school for any of those jobs and know if you're even from a brain surgeon to a lab tech, you're going to be able to afford to take care of yourself. And you don't have to worry about, can my family afford to send me to medical school? You can go because you care about it, you're passionate about it, and you don't have this debt on the back end that negatively affects the whole way that the economy works. And that's just one example with education and medicine being related, but I could go on all day about these links that I see when I see people who have the right to education.
It's just amazing to me. I think you mentioned earlier that the actual cost of a year of college in Paris is like in the hundreds of dollars or something like that. I think for the people watching this here in the States, I think our jaws are just dropping here at how other countries, supposedly weaker than the United States or whatever, are able to educate their people at very little or no direct cost. And we're agnostic on this group, ladies and gentlemen. We are fighting very moderately for the solution to this current problem, which is, first of all, the core of it is the return of bankruptcy protection to all student loans. But beyond that, the cancellation of all federally owned loans. I mean, it's time to clean this mess up. And so, people looking at where you are in France and other countries too, Norway, Sweden, heck, I think college in Mexico is by and large free, in Russia, in China, much of South America. How envious I think a lot of the people on this group are. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you have any questions or comments out there in the world, I know we've got at least quite a few viewers out there, throw them up. If I can see them on Facebook or on Twitter, I will happily read them out and we can respond to them. It's never a sure thing that I'll be able to do that. But
can you see the YouTube comments?
I cannot see the YouTube comments. No, unfortunately. That's one too many platforms for my tiny brain to be able to manage. But I can certainly see them on Facebook or Twitter if they should come in. Hey, a quick little tiny bit of current news for you all, folks. We did some deeper digging, and I know one of the research things that we found recently was the fact that, believe it or not, older people outnumber younger people with student loans. Nobody knows that. There's more people over 35 than under 35 with student loans. But the second point is that over half of all borrowers were not making payments on their student loans before the pandemic, which is pretty amazing. But there's a little bit of a wrinkle to that plot, and that is that even of the people who quote unquote are in repayment through the various income driven repayment programs, and there's nearly 15 million people in that category, half of those people are making $0 payments. So technically they're in repayment, but they're actually not paying. So the actual non-payment rate for student loan borrowers before the pandemic, this is December 2019, is closer to 64.3%. So I just want to dangle that fact out there. You're not going to hear that in the media, apparently. Hopefully we'll get some credible media to report on that fact soon, but you heard it here first. So, hey, we actually have a comment here from Leslie Fishman here on the Facebook group. Looks like, oh, yep. So Leslie says, all professions in Europe are considered a high regard, even apprentices. What a disparity from the American workforce.
Yeah,
You know,
people are treated like human beings with human rights. It's incredible, honestly. You're talking about the cost of college here, and it's 130 euros per year for French students to go to a public college. If you're wealthy, like if you're not, then you can get a waiver for that fee. But that's when I heard, and it's I think 500 for a master's, like altogether, just to get a master's degree, 500 euros. But yeah,
outrageous.
and
I mean,
it's incredible.
outrageous on this end is in the United States. It's just outrageous to me.
Well, and there
I
are
actually,
private schools that are more expensive, but you don't have to go one to be able to go to one to be able to get a job that's going to support you or be recognized as just as valid as one where you paid extra for the degree. But I think that I know that we're agnostic at Student Loan Justice about college being free, but I think that we really need to look at countries that have figured it out. And I was listening to John Oberg, the whistleblower from episode 2 of our series, speak the other day, and he said that we should really be looking at the German system. And so I looked at the German system a little bit, and the German system is still allowing American students to go to college for free there as well. So even if you're a US citizen. So announcement to all high school juniors and seniors, okay? People in Berlin speak English, so even if you don't know German, you could probably still get in. I don't have all the details yet, but you can come by the group and I'll do some more research if you need help finding out.
yeah, speaking of Germany, just a quick story. So I lived in Washington, D.C. for 3 years, and I was bouncing around literally living in hostels for 3 years in D.C., and I met a lot of people from around the world. I met a guy from Bulgaria who his family had fallen on hard times, and he sort of showed up on the doorstep of Germany. They took him in. They put him through graduate school for free. They paid him a stipend every month. And now, today, he is a very appreciative, industrious, and what's the word? Loyal employee of, I think it was Daimler Benz, if I'm not mistaken. So, come on, guys, what are we doing in this country? How did the U.S. get so freaking backwards in this debt trap that we now find ourselves in? I'm so glad that you're with us, Heather, because your international perspective and so forth, it really helps us take a couple of steps back and look at the insanity that is going on with the system. One quick point to Leslie Fishman. You mentioned apprentices, and apprenticeships still happen in this country. It's true, but increasingly people are going to trade schools, welding school, and I don't know if there's like plumbing school, but the Voctex, automotive repair, truck driving, etc., to learn the trades, culinary school, etc. And those people are taking out student loans as well. We see these people like Mike Rowe saying, "Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and become an electrician." And well, you kind of have to go to college to do that these days. It's not completely true, but it's certainly more true today than ever has been. So student debt is affecting everyone, even the plumbers.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. People say, oh, well, just go to trade school, or why don't you get into an apprenticeship program? I remember I looked into apprenticeship programs to be an electrician or a welder, try a trade instead when I was first looking at how much college was going to cost. And there are 2-3 year waiting lists in Oregon to even get into an apprenticeship program in most counties. So unless you can afford to move away from home, which if you're applying for apprenticeship, you probably can't at that time, then you're kind of stuck with the ones available near you. And in the Portland area, and I expect in other greater metro areas, it's going to be the same case where there are really long wait lists for those programs. And you usually need an associate's degree. Like, to be a welder in Oregon, you go to school and you get an associate's degree, and you take out student loan debt to get that associate's degree. So people in the trades they still need to know math. They still need to know, continue their education. They still need to be able to learn technical skills off a job site, and they're going to community colleges for that, and they're taking on student loans for it. So it's so frustrating to see that just go to trade school. Well, it would have cost me just as much. I might have been able to pay off student loans if I went into a trade and didn't become a teacher, but into a more physical trade, I guess. Maybe it's not, though. It depends on your classroom, how much you're running around. So it's all of these little arguments about, well, you just didn't do the right job, or you should have, had, 4 jobs in college instead of 3, they're just trying to pin us against each other, and it just, fight with each other. Don't look at us while all of this corruption is happening on the sidelines.
Yeah, all the finger waggers out there, who maybe even some of the finger waggers on Twitter who may be watching us today. While you were wagging your fingers, the colleges and the worst big government lending scam was ruining the country, ruining your state. And this is something, quite frankly, that no conservative can get behind. Most of the finger waggers say, they tend to consider themselves conservatives, and there's no good reason for that. But I'm here to tell you that any conservative that looks at this problem from any lucid vantage point quickly comes to realize that no, this is nothing that any conservative can support. This is a very fundamental issue of freedom. This is the worst big government lending monstrosity ever to visit this country, by far, bar none. And maybe for everybody out there who hates trying to match wits with the finger waggers, I will just say we got this. We're in the majority. 80% of all federal student loan borrowers were underwater, like even before the pandemic. So that is not a bad borrower problem. It is a bad lending system. So, wow, we're up to over 22 minutes now here, Heather. I probably should take us out. Was there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Oh, had you pulled up the Giphy page, Ellen? Did you?
I did. I did. I will. I can pull it up again here in the next couple minutes. Yep. All right.
And yes, I was a bit distracted because my little one was crawling on the floor behind me, trying not to listen. I don't understand any reason why you wouldn't want to invest in educating your population. Like, how would that benefit any civilization to disenfranchise people and to discourage them from pursuing higher education? Even the jokes about basket weaving. Well, some people are going to weave baskets. We still need baskets, right? I mean, you're not going to get a wicker basket.
Yeah, I just think, I know the event that we're doing tomorrow, and again, look at our right now I'm screen sharing our Giphy page.
We've got over 1 million views on there now.
Over 1 million views. That's amazing. Yeah, you can see these graphics. The graphics are amazing. Let me just say, we've got not only some great animations in there, constitutional, and I think, is that Harris? Yeah, that's Harris at Mount Rushmore doing videos. I think your dad did a video.
He did. His is up there too.
That is just so cool.
On Instagram, but I don't know if I've uploaded it to the Giphy yet. But many of these are with help from Vanessa, our Colorado chapter leader, and Michael from our Pennsylvania chapter. They have been putting a lot of work on this, and we've got a lot of other people who contribute in AV Club, and it's I'm not done it alone, but I think that it's a great way to share the data that you've written about and help people see how it relates to them personally and to their states.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm just seeing that Statue of Liberty one now with it looks like a ball and chain, or no, a bomb.
It's a bomb. Yeah, that's Vanessa
I
made
love
that for her pumpkin patch contest.
I love it. And by the way, if there are any artists out there, art can and will change the world. If you are inspired to do cool, creative content that speaks to this student loan ball and chain or whatever you happen to think of, if you're inspired,
songs, because we can put clips on there too, up to 30 seconds.
I love that. And by the way, Heather is one of the few people who has merited a email address for Student Loan Justice. So you can contact Heather directly at heather@studentloanjustice.org. And yeah, collaboration is great. I think art may actually solve this problem for us at the end of the day, Heather.
I hope so. I really do.
I hope so too. Between the film and again, scaredtodebtseries.com, ladies and gentlemen, between the film and the art that you guys are doing and whatever any of the other artists out there might be inspired to do, I can be up here. I say a million things, pretty much the same thing every night, and it gets really tiring. I don't think facts are really the glue that's going to hold this thing together. I think art is probably even more powerful.
I'd like to see some peaceful protests happening too. Maybe join forces with the other groups that are holding protests. What do you think, Alan?
Well, protesting is kind of a sticky wicket on this particular issue. We have marched. I have been an army of one as a protester in Washington, D.C. more times than I can even shake a stick at. We protested as a group in front of Trump headquarters, in front of the National Mall, in front of the Department of Education headquarters, etc. It gets to be a little bit of a it gets to be very difficult for this particular issue, because while you can get 3 million women to come to Washington and march, and you can get 50,000 truck drivers in Canada to drive to, student loan debt is a very different issue. So in my experience, for example, the Washington protest that we did, I think we had about 300 people committed to showing up. And of those, like less than 30, like not even 20, actually made the trip. So I am very cautious about putting all those efforts into having 35 people show up to a rally in Washington, D.C., because really you kind of get lost in the noise. If you can get 10,000 people to show up and get some meaningful media coverage, that's one thing. Maybe that's worth doing, but you kind of don't want to do an overbuild, under participated event, because then it kind of makes you look bad. So, and maybe that will happen. Maybe come springtime, as the COVID gets a little better, maybe more people will be inspired to actually make the trip, whether it's to Washington, D.C. or maybe their local state capitals. I would love to see it. But in my view right now, I think the strongest thing that people can do, rather than fly to Washington, D.C. or whatever, is be active from where you sit. Me and Heather are here doing this on the internet right now. Everybody can do stuff on Twitter, on the internet. Everybody can call their local congressmen and senators. Everybody can stop paying on their loans, quite frankly. And I think that's probably the most strong message anyone could possibly send. In my humble opinion, this lending system is finished, and really it's both probably unwise and certainly unpatriotic at this point for anyone to pay. I know everybody's going to make their own decisions. But it will be very interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Alan. That's the thing for me. I know that even if I could afford to pay the student loans, I would be contributing to, which I can't, but if I could, I would be contributing to the oppression of millions of other people who can't, right? And so I during the first 100 days that Biden was in office, I said, I'm on a student debt strike. And even though there's been a payment pause, and maybe that doesn't mean too much since I'm not, they're not trying to take the money from me right at the moment anyhow, just standing with other student loan borrowers and saying, no, I'm not going to pay this, because that's saying that you agree with it, right? That's saying that you're okay with being a financial product. And I'm not. I don't think you are. I don't think anyone listening is. So.
No, I personally haven't paid on my student loans in decades. When my loans were thrown into default and I realized something had gone horribly awry, I decided then and there that I would never, ever pay another dime back on my student loans until, at a minimum, we get our constitutional bankruptcy rights returned. I hear a lot of people say, we should organize mass payment stoppage. And really, that's already happening, ladies and gentlemen.
We're doing it. Yep.
Of the top of this broadcast, I said even before the pandemic, 63% of all borrowers were not making payments on their loans. Today, almost nobody is. And if and when they try to turn this dying beast of a lending system back on, I just don't think anybody's going to pay. So I know the Debt Collective likes to call it a debt strike. I don't really see that strike is the right word for it. It's more like a debt erasure, a deletion by popular unconsent. To be a little cheesy here, we've been throwing around words that maybe it make fit it a little better. Slexit. Think about that. I don't know how much legs the term has. Brexit, Slexit. That's the idea. So whatever you call it, I think people out there in the world right now really kind of need to be bulletproofing themselves, quite frankly. There's a lot of ways that you can avoid wage garnishment. If you're like most people, you were not going to resume paying your student loans if and when they turn the thing back on May 1st, supposedly. But there are a lot of things, and that really freaks a lot of people out, and I get that. But there are a lot of things that people can do to bulletproof themselves. They can become a 1099 contractor rather than an employee. Many people in our group make nominal payments every 9 months or less to keep their loans out of default. You can, file exempt for tax purposes so that you have no tax return to take. So there's a lot of things that people could do. And by the way, a lot of people convince their employers to not consent to a wage garnishment without a court order. If you're on good terms with your employer, you can ask your employer, first of all, tell your employer that the people asking for the wage garnishment, they're not the Department of Education. They're a bunch of 2-bit collection goons sitting in a boiler room somewhere. And if your boss tells them to pound sand, the odds are they will forget about you and they will go down to an easier target on the list. So there's a lot of things that people can do. But, I think we've gone a little bit long here, Heather. I should probably wrap it up. But just as a summary, sign up for our thing tomorrow.
Yes. So there's a screening, and so if you sign up for that right now, then you'll get to watch Sally May Not for free as part of your registration for the event, and that'll be open up and through the screening. It's going to be tomorrow at noon Eastern, the panel discussion with Alan and I. So that's from noon to 1:30 p.m. Eastern, and so it's at just democratsabroad.org and /ProDA, and it's for their monthly Mondays. And Alan, I see in the chat, I can't see whose name it is, but so they said that they've literally paid $93,000 in interest,
yes,
90 cents to principal, and still $132,000 to go. Yeah,
Vanji says literally what you just said. Vanji has paid $93,000 in interest, 90%, 90 cents on the principal. The balance is $132,000. By the way, if you have outrageous student loan numbers like that, get them in one easily digestible form, like 3 numbers: how much you borrowed, how much you repaid, how much you still owe. Just those 3 numbers in some kind of a graphical format. Send them to Heather, and she will gladly make a meme out of it. You can keep your personal identifying information out of it. Those are very strong things. One of our similar memes like that from Sabrina, I think it's probably one of the most viewed graphics regarding student loans on Twitter in quite some time. And so that all is very, very helpful.
I've seen it popping up in a lot of different places. We've got it in a GIF on the Giphy page, but I've also seen a lot of people just independently posting that one. And yeah, it is really powerful.
Seen it. The Guardian picked it up and ran with it. Michael Sonato, a couple of other media companies have reused it. So yeah, this is what it takes, guys. It takes a village, as they say. Vanji also has one other comment. Debt quote unquote strike for awareness to spread message of the number of persons this impacts if enough participated. Right. I'm not going to repeat myself, but It's pretty much already happening, guys. Really, this lending system is dead, and the pandemic killed it. So hopefully we can keep it dead and gone, and none of us will ever have to pay again certainly on our federal student loans. But much depends on everybody out there. So if you want to help, start by attending our thing tomorrow and support the film, scaredtodebtmovie.com. And come to our website, do a month worth of our daily actions, and jump in the water, because the water is fine. So, okay, Heather, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Everybody out there, do all that
Thank you for
stuff.
having me on, Alan. And thanks for watching, everybody who made it this far with us. We go on all day, but I will see you tomorrow, Alan. And yeah, have a great night.
Okay, everybody, have a great night. Good luck. God bless. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.